Welcome to HitHard News with myself and Sam O'Reilly. Firstly, Sam, how are you today?
I'm not bad, Ben. Yourself?
Oh, the usual, dying from the heat, too hot on the hottest day of the year. As soon as I cool off, I will be absolutely fine. But other than that, I am all good. Thanks for asking. So, this week has been a very busy week in boxing, both in the UK and overseas in America. So today's talking points for this show, we are going to be talking about the Box Nation card from Cardiff, talking about the three main fights, which were Terry Flanagan versus Mbeki Fana, Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Jazza Dickens, Liam Williams and Gary Cochran, and the news falling out of that show, which we will get onto in a little bit. Then we are going to be talking about the main attraction over in the States, which will be Deontay Wilder defending his WBC heavyweight title against Chris Arreola. Then we are going to be finally talking about Victor Postol versus Terence Crawford in a unification for the WBC and WBO light welterweight titles. So, firstly, let's kick off with overall about the Frank Warren show. So, first of all, Sam, what did you mainly think of the show? It was one of his best shows this year, I believe.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I think it's the best show he's done for a little while. The Welsh fans, they're pretty hardcore, and they go for their fighters. There's a lot of support there, and they were lucky enough to have two world title fights on the card. Rigondeaux, obviously, one of the greatest out there, coming to Wales was a big thing for him, and the atmosphere was really good. I think it was a decent card. I think it's definitely one of Frank Warren's best of the year.
One of his best of the year. I think excluding the pay-per-view shows, I think this one so far is the best show to date on Box Nation or Sky. So again, we've got to give full credit to Frank Warren and Queensberry Promotions. So I'm not going to talk about the whole card because we're going to be here all night if we do so, and that is there is no disrespect to them fighters, but we're going to be talking about the three main fights which appeared on that card. So first of all, let's start off with Terry Flanagan and Fana in a voluntary defence of Flanagan's WBO lightweight title. And this, for me, this did not go to the script, as many people thought that this would be done in 4 or 5 rounds. But it went the full 12, and Terry Flanagan won by unanimous decision, something along the lines of around 14 rounds, one of the judges scored it by. So first of all, Sam, what did you think about this fight?
For me, Ben, it summed up what I think about Terry Flanagan. It's really difficult. It's difficult when you're world champion and you're not getting the big name fights. And I've said for a little while that it must be fairly hard being a Frank Warren fighter and being a world champion to get the big fights, and then Liam Smith ends up getting a fight with Canelo. But
yeah,
Terry Flanagan, he suffered with, his last fight before Fana was Derry Matthews, and he hasn't had any big fights. I wonder if he's the kind of fighter that would raise his game more the bigger, the higher profile fight he's in. He boxed well, but Fana's 42 years old, and he's fought everyone for 21, 22 year professional career. and for him not to get him out of there, I think is really disappointing. He's in his prime, 27 years old, and he's get a 42-year-old guy who's fought for years and years, and he's not getting him out of there. I think it doesn't look great. And if he's wanting the big fights with the crawlers and so on, I think it's a guy that he needed to have dispatched of, really.
Yeah, totally agree with you. He needs to be getting these kind of people out, and that is no disrespect to Fanner, but you brought up a very good point. He's 42 years old. He's had something along the lines of a 22 year professional career, so he's tried and tested. He's been there, seen it and done it, and you would have thought from a physical point of view he would be on the rapid decline as such, where like he's been in big fights, strenuous training camps over 20 plus years, so like you would have thought he would have slowed down. But Fanner, he actually looked at times he really unsettled Flanagan, especially with his in and out movement, particularly in the first 6 rounds, where like at times he was making Flanagan miss by not by huge distances, but making him miss nonetheless, and covered it well. I believe in the 3rd round as well, he landed some beautiful counter punches with Terry Flanagan just being too eager to push the pace. When Terry Flanagan slowed down a little bit and actually thought about his boxing, that is when Terry started to look good, where like timing his shots perfectly and seriously hurting Fanner, as we saw in the 8th round with the knockdown with a sweet left hook, I believe, to the head, which made Fanner stumble to the deck. And then lastly in the 12th round, again, just a combination of punches which forced Fanner to take cover on the ground. None of them were what you would say devastating knockdowns. It was mainly just due to the pressure and the work rate of Flanagan, which gave Fanner no option but to take a knee as such.
Yeah,
Would you believe so?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, the experience, Fanner's not going to he's not going to stand there and get blown out. He's smart enough to take the knee when he's hurt, and he knows when he's hurt, and he backed off when he was, But I just think when he was hurt, Flanagan, I don't know if it was his punch variety or if he was too eager. I don't know. I can't put my finger on Terry Flanagan because he's not a big hitter. So I don't know what he needs to do to. But listen, I say improve. He's 31-0 world champion, But
yeah.
I just don't see any opponents that he's beaten that you kind of wouldn't have expected him to,
It is like all of his opponents, like it's no disrespect to the people who he has fought. The only person who I'd give an exception to, I keep forgetting the guy's name who he fought for the world title last year in Manchester, because like that was simply down to his shoulder popping out of position and it couldn't be reset. So what was that guy's name, if you know?
Zepeda. Is that Zepeda?
Zepeda, yeah. Zepeda. That is the only one who I would say, who Taylor was, I don't want to say expected to beat, but it's that grey area, that cloud over the name, where what would have happened if that fight carried on, or like whether that shoulder didn't come out of position in the first place. So that would be a fight which I would ideally like to see what would actually happen.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, Zepeda it was a vacant title. I remember it was vacant, and he dislocated his shoulder after, I think it was 2 rounds.
2 rounds, yes.
So it's very much like Charles Martin when he came over here and fought Joshua as world champion. He'd won his title by fighting Glachkov, and Glachkov blew his knee out.
Yeah.
So since then, Charles Martin, he had one big fight and got knocked out. Who knows? Terry Flanagan might be the same when he gets a big, but he might not. It's hard to judge him by his level of opponent since he's won the title, and that's my only problem with him. I want him to have a big fight now, and I want him to prove how good he is, because a lot of people rave about him. A lot of people do that know their boxing. If I'm honest, I just haven't seen it yet.
I will touch on the fallout of the news swiftly, but Terry Flanagan has been linked to some big fights, which I will later name. So we'll move on to the ideally, in my opinion, I would say the main attraction of the card as such, although it was not advertised as the main attraction. The main attraction of the fight was Liam Williams and Gary Cochran. But Guillermo Rigondeaux versus Jazzy Dickens, one thing which I will say about this fight, it's a shame that it ended how it did. It was a tragic shame. Left hook, busting Jazzy Dickens' jaw, good and proper. So I can't really talk too much about that fight because in a way, it was what it was.
Yeah.
Where like Rigondeaux, typical cagey first round fight, figuring out his opponent, a scouting mission, and then in the second round, he did what needed doing. So,
yeah, exactly. In that second round, like you say, he was very cagey in the first. But in the second round, I think he threw about 3 or 4 punches. Like obviously, it was a couple of feeling out jabs and stuff. But he threw probably 3 or 4 punches, and one of them just happened to break Jazzy Dickens' jaw in 2 places. So that's the power he possesses. And yeah, it was a shame for the fight to end like that. We've seen people. I remember Ricky Burns fighting at 12 rounds on a broken jaw. It's not
Scott Quigg as well.
Yeah, Quigg. It's not smart. It's probably not ideal. But does Jazzy Dickens ever get a world title fight again? I don't know.
As it turns out, Jazzy Dickens get a world title fight again. He is only 25, so I do suppose I don't suppose there still is plenty of time for him to get a world title shot. Many people have got title shots for the first time in their early 30s, mid 30s, even late 30s. So anything is possible, and I do believe that Jazzy Dickens could go on to them levels. I just think at this time it was, I don't want to say rushed, but the opportunity was too good to turn down.
Yeah.
He got a maiden shot at a world title against one of the very best in the business, a proven top 5 pound for pound fighter in most people's eyes. You cannot disagree with that. But like going on to your point about Rigo and his power, this is not the first time he has done that to people. He's done that to Nonito Donaire. He did that to Agagasa in Japan in 2014, where Agagasa looked like he had, I don't want to sound too harsh, but it looked like he had facial reconstruction surgery. He was lumpy from pillar to post, particularly his right eye. It was swollen up like a balloon from the side around the eye socket and the side of the head. So it does have power. So I would say, what would you suggest next for Rigondeaux? But who is he going to face? Because no one seems to fight him. He's back in the Who Needs Him club.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. It's a really difficult one. I really don't know what you do if you're Rigondeaux. He's 36 in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Can he go up in weight? Can he go hunting for the big fights now for the last few years of his career? Because he's going to be dwindling down soon enough, although we know he's only had 17 fights because of inactivity. So he's not anywhere near, shot or anything crazy like that. He's still got time if he wants to. He hasn't been in that many wars, but there's got to be, he's got to go looking for these big fights now. I think he has to go out and prove what we all believe of how good he really is. And if need be going up a weight, then, he may just have to take the chance and look for these big fights.
He might not have no choice, but I do think he could bow down to bantamweight. But thing is, would Rigondeaux do that? I don't think so. But moving up seems more logical. And one thing which I did like, which came out of that fight, was that Frank Warren seemed keen to do more business with him. I heard something along the lines that he would be willing to put him on a Box Nation show in September, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I think he's quite good to deal with. You know, he doesn't seem, for someone who's a big star, he doesn't seem from the outside someone who seems too difficult to deal with, as you know, as other fighters have done. But you know, he could definitely go up to featherweight if needed. And I think there's big fights. He's just someone's got to put their neck on the line and agree to fight him.
Some of these fighters, who he has been tipped to face somewhere down the line, really need to, in my opinion, I'm going to talk straight from my opinion. I think some of these fighters need to come out of the bubble wrap or the Michelin Man suit. And actually, I know like boxing now these days seems to be more of a business, but it needs to go back to the old school where like fighters need to fight the best, need to test themselves at the highest level with the highest available caliber of fighter, which Rigondeaux fits into that category. So that is just my viewpoint.
Yeah, I mean, if Rigondeaux is easy to do, can you imagine a Rigondeaux and Selby fight? You know, Rigondeaux could step up, he could challenge Lee Selby.
That would be a good fight. If you're on paper, it's a good point. Yeah, because like it could either go two ways. It could be both men backing off from each other, as I know Lee Selby does tend to do in some of his fights, or Lee Selby could go on the front foot and impose his physical size, which he would definitely have over Rigondeaux. So that's actually quite a good call. What would you think about that fight?
Yeah, it's just off the top of my head, that one, but I know Selby's wanting big fights and stuff, so that one, I don't know, maybe let's get on the phone to Eddie Hearn, get him to phone Rigondeaux's people and get that made. I like that fight.
Yeah, it is. I would like that fight, but I think most people would be aware of a quite obvious political issue which could be a spanner in the works. But let's not talk about that. We'll talk about that situation from another day.
Yeah.
So I do believe that is between Rock Nation and Al Heyman in a very personal lawsuit between one of the main members of Rock Nation and Al Heyman himself. So we'll leave that. I don't want to get into any trouble. So moving on to the headline act. Liam Williams versus Gary Coughlin. This was a scrappy fight, but by God, it was entertaining. It had good boxing skills from both men. It had blood, it had guts, and it had thunder. So, and as I've spoken to in the previous week, you were really looking forward to this fight. Neither of us could pick a definite winner. None of us could be confident in a pick on who would win this fight. I didn't know too much about Gary Coughlin beforehand, but that boy has got skills. Yeah, very good. A very good underrated fighter. And Liam Williams, he seems to be a very solid fighter, very aggressive fighter at times, and at times, quite dirty with his head movements and some of his antics, particularly up close. So, did the fight live up to the hype in your opinion?
One thing I would say before, I mean, it said a lot when this was the headline act and it was for a British title.
Yeah.
I think it was a great fight. I think you hit the nail on the head, Ben. There was a lot of, there was some, not dirty tactics, but there was some things you don't see in the highest level of boxing, heads in close. There was a lot of stuff, but I thought it was a good, entertaining battle, I think it was cut early. He hurt his nose, Williams. But I thought the Corcoran I think he had a point taken off him in the 8th or 9th. I thought that was a little harsh. But it was a really good fight, and I think Williams was shading the scorecards hence why Corcoran had to sort of go for broke, really. And I like fighters doing that. He went out on his shield.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just, they're both young men, 24 and 25 years old. Where Corcoran will come again, no doubt. It's his first loss in his career. Entertaining fight, and I'm sure there'll be more entertaining fights in the future to both of them. Obviously, Williams now British champ. So yeah, there's a lot of good fights ahead for these two boys. I think people will want to see them again. They're entertaining. They've got skill levels that are going to improve, and they like getting involved in a scrap.
Yeah. So yeah, both fighters have done themselves proud. Have done themselves justice. Because I know that there was a lot of social media beef in the leading weeks to this fight, but I think that played an aspect where there was pure needle between them both. None of them particularly seem to like each other, which I do like, but sometimes that does not transfer to the action in the ring. And there was at times we had deadly stares, we had words after the bell, we had at first after the fight where they didn't want to embrace and that, just quick tap on the gloves and stuff. But yeah, this to me could be a British Fight of the Year in the ring. It had everything. It was brilliant. I would one thing which I did pick up from Frank Warren, I would like to see a rematch. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think their styles and their dislike for each other will always be there, and depending on what route their career paths take, there's no reason that a rematch down the line couldn't happen.
Yeah. So Liam Williams, well, in my opinion, would want to wrap up this British title, win it outright sooner rather than later, because I think he is at British level the best out there. Not by a country mile, because Gary Coughlin proved a point to me where he is capable of living up at that level. Hence why I would like to see the rematch. But Liam Williams would like to wrap up that title outright for keeps sooner rather than later, move up to European or fringe world. Then who knows? Within 12 months we might see another domestic matchup between Frank Warren's Premier Light Middleweight, which is Liam Smith. That would be a good, intriguing fight, which I would like to see, and that would answer a lot of questions. See who actually is the best light middleweight in the country, because Liam Williams to me is very fast improving. He's come on the leaps and bounds almost in every fight he's had.
Yeah, definitely has improved.
And Gary Coughlin, obviously you know a little bit more about him than him. What do you think could be up next to him?
I think he's going to be an exciting fight. It depends what you do with him, because I don't think it would have done his reputation any harm. So these kind of fights, he may not. If he gets an immediate rematch, which he might be after, it depends how he feels about the result. And if he feels like he could have done better, or on the night he just was beaten by the better man, he might just go a route of going towards the European now. It's no shame in saying he tried at British. He probably, I'd say he's definitely British level now. It was a really tough fight. And he got beat by the better guy. So there's no shame in it. It depends what route he wants to take. He can step back for a couple of weeks, couple of months, and then look what he wants to do. And if a rematch can be made, why not?
Yeah, why not? So the news falling out of that card. So Frank Warren said post-fight and coincidentally in the days leading up to the fight that his welterweight Bradley Skeet very much in line for a world title shot. Sounding from Frank Warren, that sounds like that has been in process for the past couple of weeks. So who do you think could Bradley Skeet face in a world title fight? Danny Garcia? I don't think so in particular. I think it's going to be more than likely Jesse Vargas in a way. Although Jesse Vargas was in talks with Eddie Hearn, Matchroom and Kell Brook for the past couple of weeks until the breaking news about Kell Brook facing Triple G, it sounds like that fight could be in the works. Jesse Vargas, Bradley Skeet.
Is Bradley Skeet top 20 in the world now then?
He's been ranked number 7 in the WBO for the past couple of months. Wow. And I'm thinking Frank Warren's preference of fighting for WBO titles, trinkets, rankings. I'm only coming from that point of view where like that fight is a possibility, just simply down to the fact it's a WBO belt, and Frank Warren is very keen on the WBO title. He's got Liam Smith, WBO champion, Billy Joe Saunders, WBO champion, and throughout history, a lot of his Terry Flanagan as well. Lots of fighters in the previous years have held WBO titles under Frank Warren. So I'm just coming from that point of view.
Yeah. I mean, if I'm honest, I don't think he's, I look at Bradley Skeet and I think, what has he done? What has he really done to be deserving of a world title fight? That may be a bit cruel. I don't know. But I don't know. Has he really impressed that much?
Yeah, because like Bradley Skeet's best highlights of his career, losing a close decision to Frankie Gavin, and being still a very raw Sam Egginton, who's only 22, 23 years old.
Yeah.
So he's certainly not prepared caliber-wise of the opponents who he's faced, but maybe he could be one of those fighters which step up to the occasion. But I'm in agreement with you. What has Bradley Skeet done to get a world title shot? It seems like more, to me, just simply due to the fact that he's seemingly loyal to the WBO organisation. That's like the only reason why he's getting a title shot.
Yeah,
particularly politics. If it's with the WBO. So it's politics. Which, like, if that's the case, so be it. It can't do him any harm.
No, of course not. I mean, stranger things have happened. People have won world titles when they were maybe less fancied, but I don't look at Bradley Skeet as world level. I mean, he's only 28 years old. He's been around. He's had 24, 25 fights. Frankie Gavin, I think, is his only defeat. I don't believe Frankie Gavin's world class. I don't think he's world level. He stepped up to fight for the world title against Brook, and he got battered. I don't think it would be a good night for Bradley Skeet if he goes in with Jesse Vargas.
Because Jesse Vargas has come on quite a bit since he's moved up to welterweight. He did himself credit against Bradley, and we saw in what he did to Saddam Ali was brutal knockout. So Jesse Vargas is an improving fighter, and that fight, obviously, Jesse Vargas will get the bigger share of the split, and it's almost like, to me, again, this might sound cool, it just seems like to me that Bradley Skeet might just be happy being there, part of the occasion, and playing a minor part as such, because, like, I think he knows that his back would be up against the wall. Maybe would just do himself justice and just try his best, which any fighter could do, but could he realistically win? Looking at his CV, I don't think so.
No. I mean, I'd like to see him actually have a world level opponent
fighter
first. Why does it have to be a world title instantly? There's a lot of guys at welterweight he could be fighting as like a measuring stick of how he'd cope in there. So I think if he's jumping up to that world level, there's fighters that would welcome him, and it would be a tough night's work, let alone going in against the champion. Yes,
correct. And plus also there's other routes, other possibilities. Wrapping up his Lonsdale belt for keeps, European title fights. So again, could just be getting rushed back a little bit too quick. Like, why now? Same like last year with Frank Buglione. Got chucked chucked in at the deep end just because it was a world title fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll move on to the news that middleweight Tommy Langford is now mandatory for Chris Eubank Jr. So again, if Eubank is serious about wrapping up his Lonsdale belt, fair play to him, but do I think Chris Eubank should be fighting the calibre of Tommy Langford? No disrespect to Tommy. I don't think so. I think he's surpassed British level. So, again, could this fight be realistically made? Especially with the relationship of Frank Rowan and Chris Eubank Sr. That would prove to be a very big stumbling block.
I think the relationship with anyone and Chris Eubank Sr. is a stumbling block nowadays. I think we have two genuine world-class middleweights in this country, Chris Eubank Jr. and obviously the champion, Billy Joe Saunders. I think the rest of the guys are levels and levels below them. And the fact that Chris Eubank Jr. is still fighting for the British title is simply because he wants to own it outright. I don't know if the fight can be made. If he's mandatory, then probably, because obviously a big fight is a little bit down the line now for Eubank Jr. after the Golovkin falling through. So it would make sense, really, for him to go and fight Langford and defend the title. But then who knows at the moment? What show would it be on? But Eddie Hearn is his promoter at the minute. Who knows what their relationship's like after the fight falling through with Golovkin. There's so much up in the air with Eubank Jr. For one, I'm a massive fan of his boxing style, but the way his side his father is obviously what I'm talking about. The way they conduct themselves, it leaves a lot to be desired. So whether or not they get the big fight, or I don't know. I don't know what route they go at the moment, and I think they've backed themselves into a little bit of a corner because everyone knows how difficult they are to work with.
Yeah, I think what needs to be coming out of the Chris Eubank Jr. camp, but mainly with his father, is a statement or an interview with IFL TV, HitHard News, whatever, about what actually went off with them negotiations, get their side of the story, because there's still a lot of shadows regarding the Golovkin situation, because it's all been coming from Eddie Hearn, Barry Hearn, whoever else, about that situation. The Eubanks need to speak about what went off with those negotiations, or from their point of view, and also give a statement of intent. Do we want to wrap up the British title? Do we want to push on to world honours? Something needs to come out of that camp with a definitive plan, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Eddie Hearn was very vocal when he made the Brook fight of why the Eubank Golovkin fight didn't happen, and he went into great detail about the demands that the Eubanks had. I said the Eubanks, Chris Eubank Sr. is Eubank Jr.'s manager, so Eubank Jr. may not have been aware of all the demands put forward by his dad. Eddie Hearn went into great detail to let us know ticket prices and a lot of detail of what the demands were. Eubank Sr. was very vocal up until that point, and he's gone extremely quiet since. I think that tells you all you need to know regarding what Eddie Hearn's saying. I don't believe for a minute Eddie Hearn's lying or making it up. And I think Eubank Sr.'s silence has confirmed that. For me, it has anyway. Eubank Jr. is doing more talking now than he ever has done. Getting into little Twitter beefs with a little one with Kell Brook and also Martin Murray. He also had a little argument with Martin Murray. Martin Murray's apparently undecided if he should drop back down to middleweight after getting the George Groves fight, and George Groves did a number on him. George Groves outboxed him and looked sensational in my opinion. So it's very possible that fight. I would like to see that fight. If Martin Murray does drop back down to middleweight as a possibility, I'd like to see Eubank Jr. against him.
I totally agree with you, Sam. I've never known Chris Eubank Jr. actively slate other fighters, particularly on Twitter. He's always been, in a way, dismissive, where like goes, oh, like you're not worthy to be in the ring with me, like he's done recently with Adam Etchers. But yeah, like Twitter beef with Martin Murray, Kell Brook. I don't understand why he is slagging off Kell Brook, because again, he had the Golovkin fight in the grasp of his hands, and his father took that away from him. So again, boo-hoo on him. That is his team's fault, mainly his father's fault. So he has no one other to blame than himself for letting his father be in charge of his affairs, boxing management wise. He should, in my opinion, go a backbone and be in charge of his destiny, whether be privy to these negotiations, like actually physically turn up, or get someone independent involved to do his negotiations. Someone, I would say Ronnie Davis, but Ronnie Davis is the wrong man for the job because he's fiercely loyal to his father, and maybe going along the lines of, oh, I better not tell Chris, little Chris Jr. that, because he might get upset with his dad. But someone independent, someone like a proven manager. So I don't know, there is like plenty of them knocking about.
There is, but I think at 26, 27 years old, Chris Eubank Jr. should take responsibility for his own career now, and grab the ball by the horns and be in any negotiation. If he's not going to ask his dad to step back, then he needs to step forward and be in line with his dad and be a big part of these, so this doesn't happen again. I mean, do you think he cared if he got, I don't know, I don't even know the figures, but a couple of $100,000 less here and there, but he could have cemented his place as the best middleweight in the world? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's time for him now. I'm looking forward to seeing their next move, because it's gone a little quiet in a sense, especially from his dad, as we said, but I want to see where they're going to go from here. Listen, if Martin Murray does choose to step back down, which I don't believe he should, he spent a long time at middleweight, went up to super middleweight, fought George Groves, got beat, fair enough, but it's up to him. It's where he decides. But if he went back down, can you imagine that? Another domestic, and you could British title Martin Murray against Chris Eubank Jr. That's a great fight.
That is a great fight, especially at middleweight. Like, I think that fight personally would be a little bit, I think it deserves more than the British title on the line. It could be eliminator fight, or even possibly a final eliminator. But like, as he said, so it's all gone quiet from the Eubank side in terms of progression for the next fight. So again, it's one of those situations where like we're going to have to wait and see. So the next last bit of news coming out of that card will be, you mentioned earlier that Terry Flanagan needs some big fights to prove himself in a way. I don't know whether you was aware of this, that there's a possible unification with WBC champion at lightweight in Dejan Zlatikanen. And also an interesting piece which I picked up from the Manchester Evening News in planning for tonight's show. Bob Arum has been quoted saying he has been in talks with Frank Warren for a potential early fight for the early part of 2017, targeting Terry Flanagan for Vasyl Lomachenko. That is from the Manchester Evening News. So first of all, let's start on Lomachenko. That would be some statement if he fought Vasyl Lomachenko. That is again another potential pound for pound ranked fighter, and that would be a very hard night's work for Terry Flanagan. Lomachenko is no other way for it. A beautiful boxer. Beautiful with his ability, his movement, his punch variety, particularly to the body. His movement is very hard to hit unless you go down the Orlando Cerrido route of fighting, which Cerrido did successfully. So that is one heck of a fight if that gets pulled off, and that would do Terry a world of good.
Yeah,
do you agree?
Definitely. But Lomachenko scares me, just seeing what he did to Rocky Martinez. The guy's power is insane.
Hmm.
Terry Flanagan wants a big fight. If he takes on Lomachenko, then fair play to him. He's joined the Amir Khan and Kell Brooks school of going for, well, maybe not one of the pound for pound best because he's only had 7 fights. We can't, we can't forget that 7 professional bouts is very difficult to call someone one of the pound for pound best because he hasn't done it over a long period of time.
Yeah.
But Lomachenko he's an animal. He's a different animal. And listen, who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? And this is a guy who has won 2 world titles in 2 different weight classes already. So it's insane. It's insane. Like, we haven't seen a fighter have 2 world titles being held in less than 10 fights since the 1920s, 1930s. This is unreal. The guy's an absolute machine. And I think in a way he could clear up super featherweight, lightweight, and possibly move up onto light welterweight. He's got the frame for it. He's as I say, he's an absolute fantastic fighter. And as you said,
the only thing would be how he holds the weight. He's only 5'6".
Yeah.
So who knows what's too far? How many weights is? I'm sure he'll try.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll try.
Yeah. I agree. And then the second fight, which Frank Warren has talked up the possibility of, is Dejan Zlatikanen. Again, more well known for being, particularly from a UK perspective, being the much loved Ricky Burns quite convincingly.
That was only. I thought it was only a split decision, no? I think it was quite a tight fight, if I remember.
I need to check the scorecard, but and the actual decision. But I thought Dejan Zlatikanen bet Ricky Burns convincingly. Is a bit harsh. He didn't win round after round after round against him, but he won regardless. That is what is more well known for from a UK perspective, if you see where I'm coming from with that. But again, in my opinion, a fighter recently just picked up a WBC world title, and he will be looking to kick on and, again, as you said, prove himself to be the best, because the lightweight division is quite a stacked division.
Yeah, definitely. Linares and Kroll are going to go at it. These are the kind of fights that he needs to be involved in, Terry Flanagan. No doubt about it. He needs to be involved in these fights so that he's more of a household name than he currently is. We touched on it earlier. He needs to get some convincing defences in, and if he can get a big unification bout, then all the better for it will be.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Terry Flanagan, he desperately needs to be exposed, because a lot of people don't actually know who Terry Flanagan is. That is the top to bottom of it. Not a lot of people outside of the boxing circles actually know who Terry Flanagan is. And for a world champion, that is a shame more than anything. He should be, not saying like on tabloid after tabloid lauding his achievements, but he should be well known to even most sports fans. That is what I feel of any champion, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the personality to go with it. I think you got someone who does a lot of talking will always capture the imagination of the public. If they're not such, the casuals as we refer to them as sometimes. It's whether or not you're a massive boxing fan or not. Usually, guys that talk a lot and they happen to box well. But Terry Flanagan doesn't really talk. Doesn't have an outgoing personality as such. He just lets his boxing do the talking, and at the moment it's his boxing isn't capturing people's imagination. So yeah, he's desperately in need of a big fight.
Yeah, okay, so that's the Box Nation card done and dusted. So let's move on, Sam. Did you manage to see the Deontay Wilder and Chris Arreola fight?
I did. I watched the highlights. In fact, I got back from work and I caught the highlights the next day. Deontay Wilder, since he's won the title, I mean, Stavern was his, since then he's had Molina, Duhapis, Arreola, and Spilker, I think his name was.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched any of those fights and thought, this guy is a real animal. He's the real deal. We know how good he is. We know, technically but sometimes he can be really wild, and he throws shots that miss by miles. Now, he hurt his hand against Arreola, granted. Plus, Arreola's a punching bag. Arreola, if we're honest, has never, he's had big fights, obviously. But he's never torn up any trees. He's never been regarded as one of the best. You just know when you get in there with him, you're going to get a tough fight against a guy that will keep coming. It took Vitali 10 rounds to finish him. He's fought most people, and not many people knock him out. So yeah, tough guy, bit of a punching bag. Deontay, for me, still isn't looking the finished article. There's guys that I believe beat him in this division. I don't know if it's me because they're British, but I think Fury and Joshua beat him, and I also believe David Haye beats him.
I definitely agree with you. The three main British heavyweights will beat him. I do agree with that. Going back to the injury side of things, he's also got apparently a torn bicep as well, which leads to me believing that a lot of that is down to his technique. As he said, it's very, very wild. It's not, I'm not going to say textbook, because there's a lot of fighters who don't fight textbook in throwing punches to what it says in the book.
Carl Froch is a prime example of that.
Yeah, but I think he's so well where particularly when he's throwing punches, he does tend to leap off the ground to generate power. Maybe that has caused a tearing, a rupture, or something along that with the bicep, because he's scheduled to be out now for the rest of the year, and I can't put it down to any physical damage he received in the fight off Chris. I put that down to simply not throwing his punches correctly. That is the only logical reasoning I can come up with, unless he's had a problem in camp, because he has been training a heck of a long time, because we did have the Alexander Povetkin fight lined up in almost 2 months yesterday. Obviously that got postponed due to doping allegations, which has since been cleared by WADA. But that's the only logical explanation which I can come up with, is either overtrained and not had a long enough break to let his body recover from strenuous training, or because he's so wild with his technique at times, he's actually done damage with just simply throwing a punch when he's leaping off the ground.
It's very possible. It is possible. I mean, and you think the power he's got, he didn't need as much technique when he was fighting the guys that weren't, I say world level. I don't believe Areola's world level, but do you know what I mean? Before he made that step up, the guys, he was throwing those techniques and they're landing, and the guys are going down. So maybe he hasn't quite changed his game and evolved as much since he's been champion. It's possible, and it's also possible to overtrain. As you said, the Povetkin fight was cancelled at very late notice, and that was a couple of months back. So they're all possibilities, Ben. We don't know exactly what it is. I keep saying this, but I think he needs a big fight. I think he needs to be in with someone who we realistically think is gonna test him. Povetkin with his style would have been a great test for him. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But and now he's got this injury that's going to keep him out for the rest of the year. who knows what will happen with Fury and Klitschko too when that happens, I believe, in October. So he might come back beginning a couple of months next year and fight one of those guys. That would be nice. Yeah, that's a fight that I think he needs a big name now. I think he needs a name on his record as well.
I agree. He definitely needs a big name. Povetkin would have been perfect mandatory challenger, a proven high caliber fighter. Only lost once. Tough as become. Puncher. Good inside game. Good variations of his punches. And just simply an extremely good heavyweight in a division which is, although it's got plenty of names, not that with, I don't want to sound harsh of the heavyweight division, but no names. You have like got the elite and then you've got the rest. That's probably the best way about it, and the rest in realistically are not going to really challenge the elite guys, if you see where I'm coming from with that, although that there is a variation of prospects coming up, such as your Joseph Parkers, Huey Fury, etc, etc. So another name which I would like to chuck into the mix for that, particularly because he's a British fighter, I don't know how realistic this could be made, but one fight which I would be interested to see to be seen, and this would be coined as the Battle of the Bangers. I would like to see Deontay Wilder versus David Price in some weird scenario, even though in recent years David Price has been more well known for getting knocked out twice to Thompson and Erkan, but someone would get knocked out in that fight, either Wilder, who has questions about his chin, and David Price, who has got problems with his chin.
Yeah.
So that would be certainly entertaining for however long it goes on for.
Yeah, it could be. I see the other three guys I mentioned, Fury, Joshua, and Hay, as levels above Price. I don't see Price getting to a world title before David Hay does. I think they, we've obviously got those two are already world champions. Do they go and fight Wilder right now? Probably not. I just don't know. David Price has been knocked out. And I know that the guys failed drug test afterwards. But does that affect the muscle, your chin, and your punch resistance? I'm not too sure of it. David Price, I don't believe he's a big guy. He's a massive guy and he's awkward for people. But I think when you hit him, I think he stays hit and he goes down. Yeah.
I think that's the legitimacy about that fight. It's just a fight from just my personal point of view, which I would like to see. That is just, again, trying to hype up the British heavyweights, which is a blossoming division in this country, which you've got different caliber of fighters, different levels, but fighters which are either proven, such as Tyson Fury, fighters with a world title, but need that big fight against a proven heavyweight, such as Anthony Joshua. You've got the comeback trail of David Hay. He's supposed to be fighting Shannon Briggs, but there's still no news on that, whether that's signed, sealed, delivered, when that fight's going to be. But I will talk about briefly something which I noticed in the rankings with the WBA, which David Hayes ranked quite highly in, as well as the IBF and various other organisations. In the WBA, a new addition's been added to the rankings, and I honestly believe that I thought this fighter was still banned. And I know people listening to this are thinking, oh, it's Erkan, but it's not. This is a former cruiserweight, same as what David Haye was, a proven cruiserweight, which David Haye was, and someone who's been out the wilderness for a while as well. Guillermo Jones. If you look at the WBA World Rankings, he is now number 15 in the rankings, added, I believe, as of this week. And I was thinking to myself, that fight would make sense between David Haye and Guillermo Jones, a fighter which, in my opinion, I thought David Haye avoided as a cruiserweight, and would like to settle the point between who would have beat who at cruiserweight. But obviously this fight's going to take place at heavyweight. But the main issue I have with this is that Guillermo Jones is same as Shannon Briggs. He's 44 years old. He cannot have much left in the tank. But knowing David Haye, I could see this fight realistically happening.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, David Haye's ranked really highly by all the organisations now.
Yeah.
Well, WBA and IBF particularly. What he's done to deserve those, I don't know. He's fought two bums, but I also believe, I'm a massive David Haye fan. Me personally, I don't think there's any heavyweight that does what he does. His movement, his speed, to combine it with his power. I don't think there's anyone who does what he does, and I don't think. I think the division was definitely a worse place without him. I think it's great to have him back. Does he fight a Guillermo Jones? Who knows? Listen, the reason the Briggs fight is going to happen. It should have been signed by now. But because Shannon Briggs talked himself into the fight and created all the buzz and promoted the fight before they had their last fight in May. So I don't know. Guillermo Jones, he's 44 years old now. Who knows what he's got in the tank, but I realistically couldn't see him getting ahead of Briggs in the queue now because of all the promotion. And I think after Briggs, 2017, David Haye is only going to be looking for top 5 guys.
Yeah, agree with you. It was just a suggestion. I would admit I'm not the biggest fan of David Haye as a person, but as a boxer, I can do nothing but respect the guy for his achievements. So that is just my point of view. I just thought it would be an interesting little talking point for this podcast. So this week we've got the big unification fight between, in most people's opinions, the two best 140-pound fighters in Victor Postol and Terence Crawford. For those who don't know, this fight's going to be shown live on Box Nation. I believe the coverage starts from 2 a.m. So this, for once, it's nice to see a fight between two of the best guys in the division. No, the two best guys in the division, figuring it out, seeing which one really is the best. It's for the WBC and WBO world titles. And I can see this fight being quite entertaining in a way. I can see Terence Crawford with his fluid style trying to come home on the front foot, trying to impose his size, his speed and his variation of shots. Victor Postol, the typical Eastern European style of being very, very solid, but in a way being robotic, but it's very, very effective of catching people and turning fights around with one punch. I'm not saying he's going to knock out Terence Crawford, but he's got the power to change the momentum of any round at any given time. His record shows he's not a big punch. I believe he's only got 12-13 stoppages. But as I said, this is the best fight in that division. So what is your thoughts and who are you picking?
I think you said exactly what I was going to say, to be honest with you. When do you ever see number 1 and number 2 fight? Both putting their title on the line and just, it's a 50-50 fight. They're both 28-0. I think Crawford's got 20 KOs. Postol's got, he's got around 15, or it's lower. It's definitely lower than Crawford.
Yeah.
Crawford finishes more than Postol does. But Postol's last fight, he knocked out Lucas Matisse, and I like Matisse. I think Matisse is a tough guy, and Postol finished him. It is one of those really tight fights where it's difficult to call a winner. I think Postol will shade it. I think he probably throws more, and again, it depends what style they come in with, because we've seen before where what you expect to happen, the guys, they can sort of cancel each other out. Sometimes styles don't always make for exciting fights because they're so wary and they've looked up their opponent so much that they go the opposite way, so it can be difficult. It should be an entertaining fight. On paper, it's a massive fight. I like Crawford. I do like Crawford. I remember it in another one that beat Ricky Burns. But I'm gonna say I think Postol will shade it.
I'm with you. I think this is a very close fight. You cannot pick a winner unless you are very, very confident that one fighter is clearly better than the other. That is one thing which I will say. But I'm going along with you and saying Victor Postol will just shade it. That is just simply down to the fact that he throws a lot of punches, and Terence Crawford, he can be patient. Would he be too patient? I don't know. But one thing which I don't like about Terence Crawford, which we saw in the Hank Lundy fight, is he can be caught when you back him up and force on the pressure. And Victor Postol is a guy who throws a lot of punches, and he has also beaten a top legitimate 140 pound guy in Lucas Matisse, who was also one of my favourite fighters, coincidentally as well. So I'm going to go along with you, but I picked Victor Postol for this fight. So
that's no fun. Now we can't compare next week.
If our producer Andy did his job properly and actually got this recording to work, we could have had that with Liam Williams and Gary Cochran, but that is through no fault of his own, Andy, and that is no fault of yours. That's just a little joke. Don't cry about it. You do a good job, and the work is appreciated. So, briefly to round up the show, have you got any talking points, Sam, which you want to bring up quickly?
No, I think we covered it all, mate.
I think we have. So, I would like to say thank you very much, Sam, for appearing on the show once again. And thanks for listening to this week's podcast. And if you want to follow us for more updates, for all our links are in the top left-hand corner. Those are for HitHardNews.com. Also, look in the description for details on our website in the description below. And there I will also be links for Sam's own YouTube channel, which is Samurai Lee Fight Talk, a brilliant channel, lots of good content, and I would highly recommend to subscribe to the channel. And if you're not too keen on the old YouTube stuff and are a frequent visitor to HitHard, all of Sam's content is available on HitHardNews.com. So thanks again for listening, everyone.